I'm at Transition Gallery in London's East End to talk to Emma Cousin about her latest works, which are a part of a group show called Lucy in the Sky. Can you tell us a little bit about the show?
The show is curated by Corinna Spencer. Her words were trippy, dark, serious and fun. And I think that's a really good sort of synopsis of what this show is. It involves people who are figurative in certain ways and that involve some kind of narrative. So like mute myths is something that Ali Hyler, who was one of the painters, described. So it's Adam Kelly, Ali Hyler, Neil Metzner and Broburn, who are a collection of two actually painters who collaborate. So it's a great show to be part of.
So this is your painting here?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about how it started? What was the point where it was born?
This painting was quite important for two reasons really. One, it was the beginning of me realising that my little annotations, biro sort of sketches, they're very, very sketchy, so almost like getting an idea down very quickly. Could be interpreted and was enough, in fact, to make a painting. So you didn't need a full drawing that was finished and polished. You could almost like annotate marks, like a shorthand, that then I could somehow interpret, read. It's like a language. I then read and know how to make the painting. So essentially this manifests itself in sort of triangles which you can see, which were mountains, which were part of a project, which is how to make a mountain.
Okay.
So I was trying to think, if you're a child, what's the most simple gesture that you can make to make a mountain and convey that to someone else?
Yeah.
So that was the first and foremost. So when I began to make it, it was very much a landscape, a mountainscape, quite classic, I guess. It was thinking sort of Russian Impressionism and in some ways quite cliched, and it was probably a very bad painting for quite a long time. And then as it was progressing, I was becoming more interested in the formal qualities of mountains and ranges. So how, when a mountain becomes a mountain range, how many mountains you need to make a range, and also the cumulative matter, the weight of something, and how the monumentality of something, how it becomes like overwhelming or overbearing. And then they became quite like confrontational, so the angles changed completely because they weren't quite this formal. You can sort of see underneath, they were much more sort of pretty, rugged mountains that were more real.
Yeah.
And then these have become, I found the drawing again, it was sort of on the floor. I work a lot on the floor. So it was an idea, it just caught my eye and thought, that's kind of what it needs to be. It needs to be these gestures repeated. And then at that point, I got a text message. And it said, your smear test is overdue. This is to inform you, your smear test is overdue. And it was from the NHS.
Yeah.
And it was sort of an assault. It felt really, it was in my physical space. I was lost in the mountain range. And I suddenly was aware of my body, my sexuality, my gender, my, like the horrible biology of things that you have to deal with. So suddenly, it actually gave me the sort of, the confidence to say, to just go for it and make this painting. And it was sort of, I was angry. If I'd thought about making this painting about a smear test, I would have gone, God, that's just awful. That would be like the most horrible painting. And it sounds, if you're especially a woman saying that, I'm going to make this painting of, wide open legs and vaginas and this confrontation, it would sound really try hard, horrible, over the top, and references things that have gone before.
Almost like it's out to shock as well.
And shock and awe and all those kind of things, as you would stop yourself. And also, there's the first time I've questioned a smear test. You just go, because you're told you need to go, and then you sit there and you go through with it, and you don't really think about it other than get it over with.
And how horrible and invasive it is. You just, for some reason,
you try not to think about it actively. So I think, again, that was, it was definitely the first time it felt like a real awakening in terms of questioning what that was.
This painting's called Teaching Grandma How to Swim. So humour seems to be a big part of your work. Could you just talk a little bit about that and how this painting came to be?
I think humour is probably the most important thing, I would say. If you're going to take anything away, I hope it's a laugh. I think it's the only way to deal with existence, and things you don't understand in the end, is just to rationalise them with humour, to laugh at them, make them absurd, put them in a place that's unexpected. But this was really more about physically, like how would I teach Gran how to swim in a language she could understand, because I swim all the time. and I swim a lot when I'm painting. So this was made in between swimming and painting, and then like I swim to stretch my arms. So the gesture is very much like that, because if I'm painting a lot, I get very stiff and sore. And it became about this repetitive pattern. So I made arms, actually drawings of arms in the various sequences of imagining like how to swim, and then made almost like a map of arms on the wall. And I thought I could move them around, and she could understand by the different bits of the motion, almost like little sort of instructions, if you like. And then it became this pattern of this arm, which is, so that's why they're slightly different. Each one's a different, and some of them are under the water.
The elbow bending as she's...
Exactly, so the articulation of it as well. So then it became quite cartoony, and then I suppose the curtains became, in the room, I was aware of my grand's curtains, and the idea that they have these patterns, and they're all this sort of colour of like 70s, sickly 70s. So you've got like the swirly carpet and the curtains where it's all flower patterns.
Yeah.
And, so the idea of that being a language that she understands, and a language of like motifs and repetition, and a palette that she could understand. And then I suppose they were blue in the end because I was trying to convey the freedom of swimming. So rather than the idea of it like trapping her, that it would be an escapism and something that she could use to kind of get to the bottom of the earth, because the sea, the sea is the earth's underneath the sea and the sky is above it, and it's that kind of horizontal plane. So I definitely wanted to feel like you didn't know if you were above the water, in the sky, moving forwards, backwards, under, over. So it's quite disorientating. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, have you shown her the painting?
I haven't shown her the painting, but I've always promised her I would teach her how to swim, and we've always laughed about it, so it's probably something that will never happen, but maybe I could show her this and we'll get a bit closer.
Really nice.
Yeah.